Well, first off, Coach, I guess what's this time been like for you? Obviously, weird for all of us, but I'm sure as a guy that needs to do some recruiting and stuff, it's got to be a weird situation for you.
Yeah, just like everybody, we're no different. It's just been something you could never prepare for, something I don't even think you can relate to any other time that we've all gone through. But the biggest thing is just recruiting hasn't stopped, obviously. Just everything's turned into the phone, FaceTime, Zoom, just no face-to-face. Got a little bit of experience with this before. Sometimes in junior college, you recruit players and not have official visits. So you just do the best you can to develop relationships. So that's been unique. But I think the biggest thing is just our current players not being able to get face to face with them. It's been a real challenge.
What have you been doing with that? I mean, how much time can you guys meet? I know this is a different time period for you guys anyway, after the season would have been over at this point.
Yeah, I think obviously everybody does it a little bit different. We normally give our guys off an extended amount of time after the season through April. I've always thought the season is such a grind. We work really hard during the summer and really don't have much time off. A couple of days at Christmas is really all the guys get up until when the season ends. Obviously, the last 2 years we played late into the season with the Elite Eight run, then the Bahamas national trip, and then the Monday night national championship game. So we normally take time off anyway, so it hasn't been much different than that. The biggest thing is just kind of keep our guys focused academically. Nothing stopped here in their lives. Guys are still taking classes, still have assignments due, final exams coming up soon. So we've just been trying to support our players in any way we can with the academic piece.
During this time, you've been able to add a transfer in Jameis Burton. What what can you tell us about him and I guess the process of trying to get him here and ultimately landing him?
Yeah, we've actually signed 3 players during this time. We recruited, 7 or 8 guys, and these are the 3 we're fortunate enough to get. So we're excited about all our players. Of course, the fall recruiting period, signing period, had the 3 freshmen, Namari, Peavy, and Buzo, and staying in touch with those guys. Can't wait for those 3 to get to love it. And then certainly this spring, we've done some real work. Give our staff a lot of credit, especially Uric has done some amazing things here in the last couple of weeks. Specifically with Burton, we kind of targeted him as the best sit transfer in college basketball, in our opinion. It appears he'll sit 1 and play 2 here in Lubbock. Obviously, he's a talented guy that has a proven body of work at the highest level, playing at Wichita State, a championship program. But what really separated him in our minds is the intangibles. His love of the game, his desire to improve. He's a focused guy. He knows what he wants. And he knows what he's willing to do to get it.
With Brian Berg going to Georgia Southern, that leaves an opening now on your coaching staff. As much as you can talk about, where are you in that process? What are you looking for, and how has maybe the interview process changed in terms of not being able to meet guys face to face?
Yeah, we've got some roster movement, staff movement this spring, which is good. Really happy for Brian Berg. That was a huge victory. Deserving of this. Tim McAllister went with Brian as an assistant coach to Georgia Southern. So happy for Tim and appreciative of his work here in Lubbock during his 2 seasons. Several of our graduate assistants have moved on and got their careers accelerated. So just like every year in college basketball and a winning program, we'll have some staff additions and move the staff around a little bit. So we do have an assistant spot open. We're going through that process currently. I've never been in a real hurry on these things. I'd much rather get it right than get it done quickly. So certainly now not being able to get face-to-face with guys has put a little bit of challenge on it. But we're getting organized, and we hope to have something done in that at the appropriate time.
In terms of kind of what type of shape you expect those guys to come back to, whenever they're able to come back to you, how do you monitor and maintain that when they're at home and maybe they don't have the type of gyms and workout equipment that you may have back at Texas Tech?
Yeah, I think for us specifically, can't speak for other teams or other sports, but there's a real individual piece, and of accountability and discipline, required by our guys to play here. And, I'm confident the guys will come back in great shape. Everybody is working. Some of our players have remained in Lubbock, although I can't get face-to-face with them in terms of basketball. We set things up, and the players that aren't here in Lubbock, I think that everybody understands the responsibility on this team. If you're going to compete for a championship, you got to be ready at all times. Again, it's similar to seasons in a lot of ways in the past, that when the season ends, everybody takes some time off in terms of the mental grind, in terms of the team practice. But the individual grind never stops around here, nor can it if you're going to compete for a championship.
Along those lines, we talked about some of the guys that you've added to the roster. Do you anticipate any more during this offseason? And also, how do you – there's a lot of moving parts with scholarships. How's that whole process going to work?
Yeah, all that stuff works out. That's something fun for you guys, I guess, to count and think about. But, the roster is an ever-changing thing in college basketball. It's almost like roster management these days. There's all sorts of time frames. One example would be when guys are going through the NBA process. As the coach here, I have to be prepared for if guys move on, because that's a huge victory. We support that 100%, like we're doing now with Jameis. But on the other side of the coin, we have to make sure that our team's in good shape. So recruiting is 24/7, 365. We're always trying to put ourselves in a position to compete for a Big 12 championship.
And I know it was a brief time here, but what did Jameis mean to the program? Maybe not necessarily on the court, but what he can help you do down the road recruiting-wise as well.
Yeah, just like with all of our players, I think Jameis understood his expectations coming in, and he did exactly what he said he would do. I've said it before. I really believe this. From a player's standpoint, when you talk to players, you're always going to hear that players want, a coach and a program that they can trust, that there's clear expectations and there's a plan. The plan's executed. There's some accountability. But certainly from the other side, that's what a coach wants to do. You want players that you can trust, that'll keep their word, that'll do what they say they're going to do. When I reflect back on Jameis' first season in Lubbock, I think that's true from the first official visit all the way until 20 minutes before the first round game in the Big 12 when it was pulled from us. Jameis did exactly what he told us and me personally he would do, that he'd be a team player, that he'd play the game the right way, that he'd compete, but he knew he had to get better in certain areas, that he would open his mind to what it was like to play in college basketball, and he did that. So, we support him completely, appreciative of what he did. And, we'll just see if we have a chance to coach him next season. But whatever works out will be his decision, and we'll support it completely.
I know you've mentioned that this is just kind of what happens in the offseason a lot of times anyway. But for you, has the offseason felt any longer, considering it started maybe a month earlier than you're used to, or has it just been business as usual?
No, of course, on a personal level, everything's changed, right? I haven't been able to see my family as much as I want. Obviously taking the coronavirus very seriously and trying to do everything 100% like is asked of all of us. So appreciative of everybody that's continued to work during this time. Obviously, the first responders, the doctors, the people that make our life just go. One example for me in my small specific world is, the construction on the Womble facility really hasn't changed much. If anything, there's more activity and more work being done over there on a daily basis. So I think that's just one example of all the people here, really in the world, but specifically here in our country and in our city, Lubbock, that have continued to kind of go on. So, a lot of people are going through the adversity that we're all going through, but they've had to continue their normal lives. So much respect for everyone that's continued to kind of make the world keep going around.